Hey friend, do you want to offer meaningful learning solutions that create behavior change, fit in the flow of work, and yield real results for your nonprofit? If yes, this is the podcast for you. Join me as I explore instructional design and leadership development best practices, as well as change management, belonging, and influence. If we haven't met yet, I'm Heather, and I've been in your shoes. I'm a learning and development consultant and founder of Skill Masters Market. Before starting my business, I led learning and leadership development initiatives for a large national nonprofit. I know what it's like to need to develop your staff quickly and effectively and to build the relationships and cut through the organizational layers to be successful. And I'm bringing all of that to you in this podcast. So block your calendar, turn off your Teams or Slack chat, and let's dive in. It's learning for good.
I've been in training-related roles for around 20 years. But I wasn't formally trained in it. I didn't go to school for it. I fell into the field when I volunteered to learn more about adult learning in my first job out of college. And I can remember in some of my first roles trying to write learning objectives and not being super confident yet. So I'd literally pull up Bloom's taxonomy verbs to reference as I wrote my objectives. And then as I continued to learn more and get more experience, I can remember suddenly being offended by the verb understand. And if you've been in L&D for a while, you know what I'm talking about. It was all we could talk about in L&D. You can't measure what someone understands. And thankfully, I've continued to learn and I've gotten even more experience over the years. And I've gained some confidence in my learning objectives. So today, I want to share a 4-step process to writing better learning objectives. Let's dive in. It's learning for good. I have a lot of experience writing learning objectives, and I'm committed to always learning and growing and reflecting on what works and what doesn't. So today, I want to share my 4-step process to writing better learning objectives. What do I mean by better? This is not a lesson on making them smart, specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. Though that is important. This is about the actual process, almost a thought process and an engagement process that I go through when writing objectives. And this thought process is what gets me to action-oriented, performance-related objectives that drive behavior change. And I can't wait to share it with you. So here's what I do. First, I think about the behavior or the action we want them to take. Do they need to give feedback to their team? Do they need to ask a donor to give to their nonprofit? Do they need to create a lesson plan for the kids in their program? What is the behavior or the action we need them to take? And while I won't go into SMART goals here, it is important to be as specific as possible. Now, once you have that behavior or action identified, the second step is I outline the process that's going to help them take that action. And this usually looks a little bit more like a whiteboard with sticky notes and arrows than it does an outline, but I think outline clarifies what I'm going for. How will they do the thing we want them to do? What's the process? What are the steps? So for example, if we want them to give feedback, step 1 might be to identify the feedback that they need to give. Step 2 might be to create a safe space where feedback will be well received. Step 3 might be to actually give the feedback, that delivery. Step 4 might be to ask the team member to reflect on and respond to that feedback. And then step 5 might be to work together to create a solution. And I could probably go on from there with next steps and follow-up and things like that. Now that I have the process outlined, my third step is to start to identify the key learning points in the process. So for example, to do step three was to actually give the feedback. To do step 3, we might have several key learning points. This might be things like helping them with delivery. So, for example, how to be clear in the feedback, how to be specific, how to be respectful, how to share the examples you've collected. There might also be learning points around kind of creating the environment or the setting for feedback. So, how do you choose the right location, private or public? How do you set up the room to be inviting and not intimidating? All a part of the delivery of the feedback. Now, it's only at this point that I can begin to shape the objectives around those learning points, keeping them performance focused. My goal is to help the learner give more effective feedback. If the objectives don't help them do that, I don't need them. So what are the actions, the things they need to do to give good feedback? That's what I use to create the learning objectives. Now, I might have to write and rewrite those objectives to get them right, because again, I do want them to be smart. So once I have that learning objective identified, that's the first draft. And I will revise it and improve it to make sure it's specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely or time-bound in some definitions. But I don't worry about those things until I know the direction of the learning objectives. And I can't get to the direction until I've worked through this 4-step process to create it. I should also point out that this is not an independent exercise. I work with the subject matter experts at each step in this process. I see a lot of learning designers kind of creating learning objectives by themselves and then getting frustrated when the subject matter expert disagrees or has a suggestion. Feel a lot of ownership over those objectives. But this process is collaborative. And while I bring the expertise on how people learn, they bring the expertise on the actions people need to take. We have to work together throughout the process if we want to get to strong, agreed upon objectives. That's it for today. I'll see you next time on Learning for Good.
Hey friend, was this episode helpful for you? Did you like what you heard? Do you want more content like this? Here are 3 things you can do. Hit subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast app of choice, share this episode with a colleague. This means so much to me personally. I read every review, but it also helps me learn what content you like most so I can create more of what you want. All right, turn that Teams or Slack chat back on when you're ready, and I'll see you next time on Learning for Good.